In 1859, the citizens of Polk County built their courthouse substantial and strong. Today's rededication activities are the culmination of years of work and should result in a renewed sense of pride in Polk County.
We preserve old buildings, I think, because we need to. Because we need the things that old buildings can offer us. You know, the word preservation has kind of a high-sounding ring to it, but it really just describes something that you and I do every day of our lives, and for some very good reasons.
In September 2000, the Polk County Courthouse in Columbus, North Carolina, opened its doors to the public for the first time in more than a year. The long facelift is over.
This proud and stately building can once again show itself off. Everything from its original heart pine floors to its refurbished bell tower. Not only is this courthouse Polk County's most significant landmark, it's also the oldest active courthouse in western North Carolina and the 8th oldest in the state.
Hello, I'm Dick Ellis. In this program, we'll take you through this remarkable building and introduce you to the people who helped return it to its original splendor.
After the building was closed in the summer of 1999, the hard work of undoing a century and a half of deterioration began. Water leaks, termites, and old age had conspired to make the building unattractive and even unsafe in some sections. Then there were several past attempts at remodeling and modernizing that had to be altered or reversed.
Of course, the courthouse could not be restored to its original condition because that would mean removing all the electricity and the plumbing and reusing the 10 original fireplaces to heat the entire building.
We'll be removing paneling, carpeting, a lot of layers of modernization and renovations, and we'll be going back down to the basic structure of the building, with the exception we won't be removing historic plastering, historic moldings. Those features will be left, and those that are intact and sound will be reused.
To oversee the restoration, the county hired Carter Watkins Associates, a Georgia-based architectural firm that had already restored several other courthouses in the South.
It's certainly an ambitious project whenever you're trying to take a 150-year-old building and continue its originally designed use. This building will continue to be a courtroom. It will continue to serve as the clerk of the Superior Court's offices, and that's the challenge. It's ambitious, it's difficult, but it's worth its weight in gold because there's no buildings that are being built today that have the style, the scale, and the magnificent designs that these old antiques have. It's ambitious, but it's something that's important and that needs to be done to give Polk County that pride of their heritage and the hard work that their forefathers put into building this county.
The original courthouse was completed in 1859, 4 years after Polk became a permanent county.
This courthouse is thought to be a Greek Revival courthouse, but when in fact it's actually Italianate, an early Victorian architecture, which is an outstanding thing considering it was built in 1857 in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Today, the courthouse sits on the National Register of Historic Places. But perhaps more important to the people of Polk County is the role this courthouse has played in the county's history and development.
The importance of this building to the community is this is the focal point of this county. When the county was first carved out of some other counties in 1855, this square was set up first, then lots in local areas were sold to raise money to build this courthouse. So it is, shall we say, the heartbeat or the brain or the heart of this county, and hopefully it always will be.
Well, the courthouse is the middle of the county, the middle of the town, and it's the icon, you might say, that draws people to Columbus, either for business or it just looks good here. And we were all disappointed in the way it had been allowed to run down and kind of come apart.
There were those who wished to tear it down, there were those who wished to restore it, and there were those who wished to build extra space in the county to house our county office workers.
Helping citizens understand the significance and importance of Polk County's original courthouse was a cornerstone of the overall restoration project. One of the more unique efforts undertaken was the creation of a special local history tour, which included a trip to the courthouse for every fourth grade student in the county.
The children were here and visiting when we were trying to decide whether to save this courthouse or to tear it down, and they were appalled at the thought of taking this gorgeous building down. They like to look at the doorways and see the wood pegs and the different kinds of trims, and the most exciting part of the trip is when they get to go to the bell tower. It's a very exciting part of their culture, and I think that it's important for children in this area where people are not always attached to their families, families are not always together. They begin to feel some sort of love and excitement about place and a connection to place, and this courthouse is something that really does that for them.
Much would have to be done to make everyone in Polk County proud of their courthouse once again. In 1995, a courthouse restoration committee was formed to look into what needed to be done and where the money to fund this massive project would come from. The total bill was estimated to come to $1.5 million. $1 million from county taxes and the remaining $500,000 from private donations.
The project started really from a grassroots aspect. There were a group of citizens that were asked by the county commission if they wanted to get involved in helping restore the historic courthouse. And that really started the whole project. It started with that, then we started a public relations campaign to inform people of the significance of the courthouse and why it was important to be restored.
We had an awfully good response from many people in the community who wanted to see the courthouse restored. And they brought forth the money, the contributions that made it possible. So I think it was a happy ending for everybody.
Much of the work would go to undoing the effects of past alterations. For example, in the 1920s, the building's original heart pine floors were covered with oak flooring. All of those oak boards would have to be removed. The courtroom's theater-style seats, also installed in the 1920s, would have to be replaced with bench seating, which was common in the late 1800s. Like most courthouses, Polk County's has a colorful history. It's seen its share of the guilty and the innocent, and the restoration helped uncover some of that history. The late Homer Jones, a local historian, often said that signs of a whipping post would be found in the building's original courtroom. Sure enough, when construction workers lifted the 1920s oak flooring on the first floor, they found a hole in the original courtroom pine flooring that had been the site of a whipping post.
On a more modern note, the Polk County Courthouse was the first in western North Carolina to appoint women to a jury. It was in 1944, the height of World War II, and only 10 men could be found to try a local gentleman for making non-tax-paid whiskey, also known as moonshine.
The county needed 12 folks to make a full jury, and after much excitement and controversy, 2 women were finally picked to round out that historic jury.
Yes, there have been murder cases and those type things. And, during the court week, I usually tried to be some other place if at all possible, because you're always subject to be pulled in as a juror, and I tried to stay away from that. And knowing most of the people, I didn't want to be on one side or the other, yes. But a lot of interesting cases, and quite often the magistrate would, if we were available, a lot of people come in, they didn't have to have a waiting period to get married. A lot of times a couple would come in late in the evening and say, they want to get married in marriage, he had to have a witness. So he'd come up with it. So I put my name on a lot of marriage certificates over the years back then.
With the funds on their way, restoration began in June of 1999. One of the first steps was to remove those oak floors installed in the 1920s and uncover the original and unusual heart pine boards.
To date, I'd never encountered floors that were almost 2 inches thick with a concealed spline versus a tongue and groove floor. So the floors in the Superior Courtroom on the second level had been covered up for years with several different layers of flooring, so they were a wonderful surprise to find.
Dropped ceilings were also taken out to reveal 14-foot walls topped by their original beaded pine ceilings. The bell tower was also repaired, and the bell rang once again. Period lighting was installed throughout the building. The only nod to the present was electric light bulbs. All the windows were given shutters again, and the exterior reclaimed its original colors.
Most everything we've torn up here has been added through the years during different renovations, trying to get back to the original building that was, I think, 1855. We've taken up 2 or 3 layers of floors in places, and this is the original pine flooring that was put here when the building was first built. The old ceilings, the plaster was put on wooden lath, and you can see where through the years of renovations, each step's changed and stepped up with the times.
The restoration took place in 4 phases, starting with a selective demolition. All the old plumbing, the heating system, window air conditioners, and wiring were removed. Then the contractors went to work on the interior walls. New restrooms were added on the first and second floors. A hole was cut in the floor for an elevator, not a feature of the original building, but essential for the needs of the public. Every step would present its challenges to the architects and construction crew.
The biggest obstacles are going to be incorporating modern technology into the building that's solid masonry walls, interior and exterior, a building that's got heavy timber frame floor construction, trying to avoid drilling and coring through heart pine floor joists. Those aren't enjoyable tasks. A sprinkler system is something that the state fire marshal is most likely going to insist that we incorporate into the building. And that's extremely difficult because we're raising the ceilings back up to their original 14 feet high height on the first floor, and that doesn't give us we don't have a plenum space to incorporate modern technologies into. So those are difficult things, getting mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems in that aren't so obvious that distract from the historic presence of the building.
The second phase focused on structural repairs. Rotted floor joists were replaced. Where newly revealed heart pine was in bad shape, it too was replaced or repaired. In the process, the construction crew also found a relic from daily life in the 1800s, an unexpected window into the past.
Well, this shoe was found under the stair, brought out through this hole. They wanted to know what was under there. The architects wanted to know how good the structure was and what was under there. And of course, no one expected to find this wonderful shoe, which appears to have been repaired a number of times during its life. There are several layers of leather making the sole and the heel. As you can see, the upper is torn in several places. And there are holes in the last sole that's on here, which indicates it was pretty well gone when it went in the stairwell, I think.
The building's fireplaces, which had been closed for decades, were then opened up. Most of them still had their original unadorned Greek Revival mantels. In one instance, an original mantel from the second floor was relocated to a fireplace that had been closed and plastered over for years. Some folks in the county say they can remember when these fireplaces came in mighty handy on a cold winter's day.
Quite frequently, the old furnace at that time was not working very well, and they upgraded it 2 or 3 times. But back in those early days, we'd come in early and build a fire in the fireplaces. There's 2 fireplaces, one in each room, and most of the time they had coal. Occasionally we had to bring in a stick of wood or 2 to keep it going.
In the 1970s, the closed-up fireplaces could be opened up just enough to dispose of illegal substances.
Well, this was all sealed up. The fireplace was all sealed up. And we were getting a lot of marijuana cases in court. And the judge took over the marijuana, and then when the court was over, he gave it to me and said, dispose of that. So I wondered where I could dispose it. And so I happened to look at my desk was right here. And so I just started peeling this off where I could get to it. And that's where I burned my evidence. And didn't smell any bit.
Old theater-style seating in the courtroom, installed in the 1920s, was also removed during Phase 2. But the judge's bench remained at the second-floor location where it's been for over 100 years.
One thing we're very proud of in this building is the judge's bench itself is the original judge's bench. It dates back to 1857. It's hand-hewn, pegged-together panels that you see in front of the judge's bench, and the actual ledge itself is the original ledge from 1857. We took those materials and we interpolated, and we brought about the proscenium arch that you see today over the judge's bench.
The building also got a new roof, and restoration of the cupola began. New copper was installed in the cupola, and the wood was given a fresh coat of paint.
Over the years, we had a lot of trouble with termites and water damage from the radiators, or leaks in the roof, and pigeons on the belfry tower. But the belfry tower has a wonderful history. Back during that time, our communication was not too good in the county, and at Christmas time, we made it possible to put a sound system up in the belfry, and we played Christmas music during the time, and local people enjoyed that. They'd come and listen to that over the holidays.
The courthouse bell used to ring to announce when court was in session and when election results were in. But in the mid-1980s, some people in town complained, and the ringing stopped. When it came time to restore the building, workers were concerned that the wooden beams holding the bell might be rotten.
During the third phase of construction, new wiring, interior walls, and windows were put in. Workers began installing the elevator and putting in new plumbing, heating ducts, and all the mechanical systems.
The building has survived the installation of the rough mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Those are the most difficult things with a building that has all brick walls. It's still standing, so that's something to be proud of.
A major point of pride in the courthouse is the pair of spiral stairs that greet visitors as they come through the front door.
While so much of the courthouse was built with hand-tool materials, this original railing and newel posts were made by machine, almost unheard of in rural North Carolina back in the mid-19th century. Some believe they may have been made in a large city like Charleston, South Carolina, and shipped by rail to nearby Spartanburg, then carried north by wagon or cart to here in Columbus.
The fourth and final phase was mostly cosmetic, repairing interior plaster walls and the exterior brick. Replicas of 19th century bench-style seating went into the courtroom. The newly discovered heart pine floors were refinished, and then came the lighting reproduction English fixtures with a hurricane globe that would traditionally have been used around 1850 and would most likely have been used throughout the building on mantelpieces and desktops.
Today's office environments, more light is required than they had then. So we've used them in a chandelier application by mounting the hurricane globe kerosene lamps to arms. But this fixture is a reproduction of a true English fixture. So the lighting level in these offices should be adequate. If it's not, we'll incorporate some task lighting, lamps, and et cetera on desks. The council tables will have lamps, and so will the judges' benches.
Choosing the right colors was critical. Uncovering old layers of molding revealed different time periods of color.
And we could clearly see the 1870s, 1880s bright orange. There was bright orange and green and lavenders that were used in the building. And the moldings in this courtroom were painted orange, and so were the walls at one time. And we dated that to approximately 1880, 1890. The original colors of the building were clearly found. The walls will be painted a off-white throughout the building, which would have been characteristic of a courtroom. Actually, the original walls in a lot of the building would have simply been the original white polished china finish of the plaster. They wouldn't have even been painted. But the paint finish that we'll put back on it will simulate the white finish of the lime plaster.
From selective demolition to the final coat of paint, the Polk County Courthouse restoration took nearly 15 months. Today, this grand building looks much like its former self, with all of its greatest features uncovered, repaired, and polished once again.
We have a very unique situation here where we combine public and private dollars together and came up with something that was actually just incredibly gorgeous. The fact that if we had just renovated this, it would have been renovated to mechanicals and the structure would have been put back together, and now it's put back together into a period that mirrors a lot of what it looked like 140 years ago.
Anytime you have a project of this magnitude, it really is helpful if you have the community support. And the restoration of the Polk County Courthouse is really a celebration of the citizenry and our elected officials. It's not a credit to any one group or any one individual. It's a collective group of 15,000 residents of Polk County who all came together and said, let's restore our courthouse and keep it a symbol of pride in the community.
The courthouse is now in full use again and has reclaimed its position as the heart of Polk County. I'm Dick Ellis. Thank you for joining us on this tour of a proud building that is sure to serve the people of Polk County for many, many years to come.
Funding for this restoration video was made possible through a grant from the Polk Community Foundation and the Polk County Courthouse Restoration and Endowment Fund Committee. To purchase a copy of this video, write to the Polk County Courthouse Restoration Committee, Post Office Box 1, Columbus, North Carolina, 28722.